5 minutes.
Do you know Thomas Heffelfinger, ma'am?
I've met him, yes.
Before he resigned, was there a conversation about problems with his performance?
Thank you.
I believe I did hear a few.
What were they?
There were some concerns that he spent an extraordinary amount of time as the leader of the Native American subcommittee of the AGAC, and clearly people thought that that was important work, but I think there was some concern.
Thank you. You've answered. Can you tell me, ma'am, excuse me,
question.
Ma'am, excuse me. Could you tell me, please, was there concerns about whether or not he was allowing members of Native American tribes to use tribal IDs in order to vote?
Oh, I don't remember anything subject specific. The concern that I heard raised was just that he spent an extraordinary amount of time on the subcommittee business.
Did anything about voter tribal IDs ever come up in that discussion about problems with Thomas Heffelfinger?
I don't have any recollection of it.
Do you receive any communication from Secretary of State Mary Kiffmeyer regarding Thomas Heffelfinger?
I don't have any recollection of ever seeing anything like that.
Did you ever interview Joan Humes?
Yes.
When did you interview her?
It would have been after Tom Heffelfinger notified us that he was going to leave.
Now, you know, she's a 1990 graduate of the University of Minnesota, right?
I don't remember her resume.
Well, do you recall that she's the chief of civil in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota?
Yes.
And you understand that she had clerked for Judge Rosenbaum, who's a Minnesota federal judge, right?
I don't remember her resume.
Well, do you recall that she at least had a good, solid resume, had worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office, and had been practicing law for some 15, 16 years? You know that.
I remember she was the civil chief. That's my recollection.
She didn't get the job, did she?
No, she didn't.
You knew she was Democrat, right?
I actually don't know that I heard she was a Democrat. I did hear she was a liberal.
Okay, you heard she was a liberal. Was that a factor? Was that a factor in your decision to bypass her?
I think it was a factor in some ways, but it wasn't the overarching factor.
Now, the person who you did hire was Rachel Polos, is that right?
There was a panel of people involved, but yes.
Rachel Polos was hired. Now, you know that 4 assistant U.S. attorneys have quit because she is so inadequate in management in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. You know that today, right?
I read press accounts that they went back to...
You know that's true, don't you?
I don't believe they resigned. I believe they went back to their positions as AUSA.
No, they quit their leadership position, right?
Answer the question.
They quit their leadership position. They quit their leadership positions, is that right?
Yes.
And they went back to line positions, is that right?
That's what I understand from the paper.
So Ms. Polos was, and you know Ms. Polos personally, isn't that right?
I met her during the interview process.
She described you as a friend of hers. Would you use that term friend as well?
We became friends after the hiring process.
And you're friends today, right?
I haven't spoken to her in some time, but yes.
How much time has gone by since you spoke to her?
Maybe February, maybe early March.
So you spoke to her as early as March 07?
Maybe the first week of March. I can't recall.
Did you ask Ms. Humes if she was a member of the Federalist Society?
No.
Did you ask her about her religious affiliation?
No.
Did you ask her specifically about her party affiliation?
I don't believe that we did. The interview was conducted by Mr. Margolis, Mike Battle, and myself.
Excuse me, that's not responsive to my question, but we'll move ahead. Did Ms. Polos ever lead a department at the office, any office of a U.S. attorney?
I don't believe she had.
And Ms. Joan Humes had led the civil division, is that right?
Yes.
So you all bypassed a chief of civil and went to somebody who had no experience in management simply because they were a liberal?
No, not at all. There were other reasons involved in the decision.
Now,
to clarify,
I don't need a clarification. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I would like to complete my answer.
Well, I don't need an answer. I have an answer.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Parliamentary
These are not
inquiry.
the rules we started under.
No, Madam Chair, I have the authority to control my questions. I got to answer to my question, and I'd like to proceed on.
You're a member of this committee, and those are not the rules.
Madam Chair, this is a deleterious tactic
very, very sensitive and responsive to the lawyers that are on this committee and their questioning form. But it is the rules of the committee that members allow witnesses to answer the question. You can ask them to abbreviate, Ms. Goodling, and because of the shortness of the time, I would ask you to be more precise in your answers to the gentleman. The gentleman may continue.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask for at least 2 minutes of my time to be restored. I've been interrupted here.
I object.
Time has been suspended on each of the times
Thank you.
that we have. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now,
Could I
did you ask Rachel
Let the gentleman
Polos?
proceed.
There's no question before the witness.
I didn't finish.
There is a question before the witness.
There's no question
She's trying
before
to
the
answer.
Regular order. Regular order. The chair will rule. The gentleman will proceed. You can include your answer that you wanted to complete as the gentleman finishes his other question. Will the gentleman proceed?
Did Rachel Polos' political affiliation play any role in her hiring?
Yes, it did.
And that would be that she was a Republican.
Yes.
Did her religious affiliation play a role in her hiring?
No, it did not.
Did her membership in the Federalist Society play a role in her hiring?
I don't remember. That was something we talked about.
Did the fact that she never tried a case to a jury impact your thinking on her hiring?
She had 2 to 3 years prosecution experience as an AUSA, which is a lot more than some of the U.S. attorneys that we hire, and that was significant experience.
How did that experience compare to Joan Hume's
Fired.
experience?
Gentleman will.
As I recall, Rachel's experience was some civil and some criminal.
The gentleman's time has expired. We'll let her complete her answer. And she can complete her answer.
Rachel Polos was selected based on her qualifications overall, and we did include the fact that she might be able to be a candidate for the presidential nomination. We sometimes thought if we had somebody that we could put in to be an interim U.S. attorney who also had the opportunity to be considered for the presidential nomination, then that was a factor.